Welcome back. Officials at the Bahamas Power and Light giving details on the conditions of the building known as Station A, located at Clifton Pier Power Plant, which houses the 7 Wärtsilä engines. According to Director of Energy Supply, Anthony Christie, the Wärtsilä engines should have been placed in a new building rather than the current structure, which, according to him, is over 40 years old and is inadequate.
If someone asks me what we have done, I think we would have wanted to have 7 units installed in a new building. We'd have wanted to have a new boiler. We'd have wanted to have new separators. We'd have wanted to have a new incinerator system, etc. Probably additional, we spoke of the alternative cooling that they would have purchased to install if the boreholes didn't function. So a lot of things that should have been done at the inception, which may have cost a little more money or extended the time in which they would have been online, that would have helped us and put us in a better position to date. So, you know, in engineering design, is the key time at the beginning when you spend the most time, so that at the end, you don't have to spend time correcting things that should have been put on the table or corrected at the beginning. So I think a lot of push was for getting the units online right away. They promised December. Once that date was set, they wanted to meet that date, and I think that's what happened. But now we're seeing a lot of that impact, because again, we're correcting stuff that should have been done better at the beginning.
Mr. Christie also mentioned an issue with proper ventilation in the building, a matter that brings a different array of problems. He says they are in regular communication with Wärtsilä, the original engine manufacturer, for collaboration on analysis and other needed information.
I talked about the ventilation in the building. We want to correct that. That's something that's going to happen real soon. We went through a very hot summer, and like I said before, walking near the engine bays and near the doors, it was extremely hot, and that impacts the generation or output from the unit. So in short order, we're going to install a series of exhaust fans up on the upper windows along the wall that would help with the ventilation in the building. Another large component outside of fuel was the air supply, which is provided by compressors, which are part of the engine operations. By design, they put those in the building, and they found out that they were too hot to operate properly in the building, so they had to put them on the outside of the building. Well, they did an ad hoc design for that. So right now we're trying to correct that to make supply proper air in a proper area in order to make sure that we don't have that as part of our issues running. So,
despite the structure of Station A being compromised, Mr. Christie noted that work has already begun on structural repairs towards the building through the U.S.-based corrosion and materials solutions company called Mattergenics.
Obviously, hard hats and PPE is important. And in areas where we see spalling and we have some roof or ceiling falling, we're putting up jacks or wood until we can have the structural team come in order to do repairs. And that's a project that's being planned to repair all of the structural areas that we have shown you with regards to the spalling. That's being planned toward near the end of the year. So we're still doing studies, trying to get the right vendor quotes, etc., in order to complete that moving forward. The steps involved, once we did the analysis, we looked at repair. Once the repair, then we do preventative. Preventative would be called cathodic protection to prevent the rust from propagating, and that would be a system where it helps to reduce the rust and the propagation of rust, and again the spalling itself. Operationally, there was mention of running all units at one time. Based on anything else that we do, we can be very cautious of that. If we need to run all 7, if they are available, I'm sure we would run the 7 units. But again, we do know where areas of concern are, and that was a part of the study, which areas are more concerned. How do we protect staff and equipment in these areas? So that's what we're going to address moving forward.
When asked concerning cost of maintenance work, Mr. Christie says it would be less than $3 million to complete, with some of the maintenance work already ongoing. The U.S. Embassy, Nassau, is excited to announce that Freeport Grand Bahama has been selected as one of 129 cities across Latin America, the Caribbean, and the United States to participate in the Cities Forward program. The United States government has partnered with ICLEIE, Local Governments for Sustainability, Resilient Cities, Catalyst and the Institute of the Americas to create this flagship urban sustainability initiative. Freeport has been paired with Coral Springs, Florida, to share successes and challenges in priority areas, including extreme heat, water resource management, greenhouse gas reduction, renewable energy, transportation, access, and plastic pollution control. In a collaborative partnership, both cities will provide peer-to-peer exchange, capacity building, and diplomatic engagement focused on implementing projects that solve critical urban challenges as well. In June 2022, U.S. President Joe Biden and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced the Cities Forward program at the 9th Summit of the Americas and officially launched the program at the Cities Summit of the Americas in April this year. The goals of the initiative are to mitigate pollution, strengthen climate resilience, and improve health and welfare of underserved populations. The passionate voices of Bahamian youth were documented in a short film written by a Lutheran Deep Creek Middle School students, Taryn McKinney-Lambert and Keon Sands, and produced by Kareem Mortimer. The two students, pictured here, wrote and narrated the short film, My Island, My Future, that illustrated how the Bahamas depends on its oceans for survival. The film won first place in the Best Youth Short Documentary category at the recent Atlanta Children's Film Festival. The story surrounds a call to action made by 10-year-old Taryn in a letter to the Prime Minister at the time, Dr. Hubert Minnis, asking him to hold off on any future oil drilling in the country. Keon Sands, age 12, spoke about the delicate marine ecosystem which would be directly impacted if an oil drilling accident occurred. The film was endorsed by Our Islands, Our Future, a coalition of local and international organizations established to support Bahamians who are passionate about protecting their heritage and their livelihoods from oil drilling, and who are calling for a permanent ban on oil drilling in the Bahamas. The short film can be viewed on YouTube at My Island, My Future. Even more from the fallout of the recent Babe Ruth Caribbean Baseball Championships at the Andre Rogers Baseball Stadium after the Bahamas Baseball Association, the BBA, suspended Bahamas team manager Greg Burrows Jr. for 15 years and Greg Burrows Sr. for 5 years for their action in relation to an incident that involved a visiting umpire. The Babe Ruth organization, we told you earlier in the week, they wrote a letter to Prime Minister Philip Davis on Monday expressing their firm support of Burrows Sr. to continue as commissioner for the Babe Ruth League, the Caribbean region. The Babe Ruth organization sees the 5-year suspension for Burrows Sr. as being too severe. Well, on Wednesday, the Confederation of Caribbean Baseball also writing a letter, this time addressed to Samuel Rogers, president of the Bahamas Baseball Association, expressing their support for the BBA and the upholding of the suspension of both Burrows Sr. and Burrows Jr. from all activities regarding Caribbean baseball institutions, Pan American and World Baseball Softball Confederation activities. Again, the local baseball community awaits to see how Prime Minister Philip Davis and the government will handle this situation involving Burrows Sr., who is also the executive chairman of the National Sports Authority. And finally, on Wednesday night, the Bahamas national men's basketball team secured what could be considered their biggest victory in the history of the program when they defeated host country Argentina 101-89 to advance to Saturday's semifinals of the FIBA Basketball World Cup Americas qualifiers, which also serve as the Paris 2024 Olympic pre-qualifying tournament. Team Bahamas used tough defense to rebound from an 18-point deficit in the first quarter. With the victory, the Bahamas will play in the semifinals on Saturday versus either Colombia or Uruguay. The finals are scheduled for Sunday, with the winner advancing to the FIBA Olympic qualifying tournament to compete for a spot at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. After the victory, Prime Minister Philip Davis, who has been following Team Bahamas, sent out a message on social media saying, quote, today, every member of Team Bahamas showed what it means to play with heart and determination. Taking down Argentina, which is the 4th-ranked team in the world, is no small feat From every steal, rebound, shot, and assist, the entire team shined. We're bursting with pride back here at home in the Bahamas, end quote. Prime Minister Davis encouraged Team Bahamas to carry that same momentum into the semifinals on Saturday. Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, Mario Boleg, who was also a national basketball coach, is also with the team in Argentina. In the victory, Eric Gordon Jr. led the way with 24 points. DeAndre Ayton finished with 22 points, 15 rebounds. Buddy Hield had 23 points. Travis Munnings added 20 points in the victory. Team Bahamas was coming off a dominant victory over Cuba in its opening game on Monday, where they beat Cuba by 41 points, 109-68. That'll do it for your JCN Evening News. Once again, I'm Jarino Saunders. Thanks so much for joining us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.